What's happening, everybody? Welcome back for another BG-Cast Wednesday live podcast. Man, what an interesting week on multiple levels. I'm not going to go off too much on it tonight. We have the post-election special coming on at 6:30 p.m. tomorrow. So I'm going to hold most of it till then. But the one thing I want to say, guys, is do not get caught up in the mob mentality. Do not get caught up in the groupthink. Let's hold strong with our sovereignty and our discernment on this. That is number one when we're looking at this whole situation that we're all of us are enduring and going through at this point in time. So I want to give a quick shout out actually to a friend of mine. This is so strange. So a friend of mine of like 10 plus years, his name is James. So I'm not going to go ahead and say his last name. He has joined the Conscious Collective. Welcome, James. It's really cool to have you on board with everybody. It's great. James and I go back about like 10, 15 years at this point, but he's doing his thing over on X. He's hosting his X spaces with his partner. Totally surprised me to see this. I was like totally stoked for him. I was like, man, this is really cool to see you doing this. So, guys, I'll shoot out his tag in the description after the stream is done. He's more on the political end of things than I am. Of course, I do politics here, but I also explore the freaky woo-woo and other things like that as well. But give him a shout. But real quick, because James likes to give me shit, I got to give him just a touch of shit real quick. So about 10 years ago when I was talking about this stuff, James used to think I was kind of loony. He used to think I was a kind of off base. He thought I was a huge conspiracy theorist. And those phone calls I told you about that I got in 2020 where people were calling me and going, you know what, Steve, you're not as off base as we thought you were. He was one of those phone calls. So I just had to throw that out there. James, much love, bro. You always give me a little bit of shit, so I had to give you some back in return. And nonetheless, man, welcome aboard to the Conscious Collective. It's great to have you here, man. All right, I'm going to welcome some new followers real quick before we bring on my guest. I also want to say I've been really appreciative towards all the love, guys. I got people doing promos for me right now. I've got people coming on board, and I can't tell you how grateful I am for this, man. I've been working my ass off, being an electrician by day, podcaster by night, for now going on the past like 3 years. So it's really cool to see all this love and to see all of these people coming and checking me out and hopping on board. So we got the Rumble followers first real quick. So we have Big Loaf. Thanks for coming over to the BG Cast fam, man. We got Johnny583. Thanks for coming over, dude, and checking me out. We got DeWigginator. I dig that name. It takes me back. It's nostalgic. If you ever want to know that story, man, let me know. We got Mad Monk AAH. We got Maiden Anarchy Rachel. Thanks for the follow. Much appreciated. We got Knock Knock. Thanks for the follow, man. We got Richdale 277. We got Bard of Andromeda, and we got BritDog76. Welcome to the BG Cast fam, you guys. And over on YouTube, Clark, thanks for the follow, man. I know you're in the waiting room. I appreciate that on YouTube. We got Harry Junkman. I get so many notifications on YouTube, guys. So sometimes the follows kind of fall in with that. But nonetheless, thank you everybody, man, for the love is intense. I really appreciate it. And this is why I do it, you guys. I've always seen us as a family, this Conscious Collective. And I know not everybody sees it that way yet. But eventually we will. I mean, we're all in this together, as hippy dippy as it might sound. We're all enduring this together. And, we have to have that love and respect and that compassion and that understanding, for each other in this community as well. And we have to stop giving them what they want, guys. We have to stop giving the powers that were and the parasite class what they want. They want us divided. They want us fighting amongst ourselves. They want a civil war. They want all of this stuff. And guys, if we don't give them what they want, the ball's in our court because they rely on us to create their desired manifested outcome. I've hit that nail on the head as much as I possibly could in the 2 seasons I've been doing this show. Hopefully people start picking up on it soon. All right, guys. Nonetheless, I have a really cool guest sitting in the waiting room right now. My friend Andrew from Heavyweights Life Feels actually, put us together. I got to say, I'm very impressed by what he is doing. He has got a challenge he's been doing. He's been hiking all of the tallest mountain peaks in the USA. Um, as somebody who has hiked 14ers before, I can tell you that's no easy feat. And he has a very interesting spiritual awakening he's going to share with us tonight as well. And he has some ideas on what a possible underlying objective truth to this reality could be, which I'm definitely interested in hearing too. So, guys, let's welcome to the stage Mr. Clark Jackson. What is up, man? How's it going?
Hey, man, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm hanging in there, man. It's good to have you here. It's
That's
good to
great.
have.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good being
Yeah,
home.
yeah. Yeah, dude, it's cool, man. Well, you know what, man? You and I vibe a lot, and as a fellow health and fitness enthusiast myself, I really dig what you're doing. I think it's really cool, man, to challenge yourself in these ways. I've decided to actually up my weight cut during the holidays, which it's a little bit tough. It's mentally challenging, but I'm doing it anyways because again, you have that mental conditioning you get from that kind of stuff, dude. Like, I mean, a lot of people, yes, we train our bodies, and at least in my opinion, training our bodies does help us train our minds to an extent. But I think the mental faculties also have their own kind of separate training that you can strengthen them with, and you can help enhance your mindset and your discipline when it comes to things like this. But nonetheless, Clark, let's hear a little bit about you, man. Let's hear about your story. Let's hear how you came to be where you're at today, not just on your physical health journey, but on your spiritual journey as well. So if you don't mind enlightening our listeners, since this is the first time you've been on, let's hear that story.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I actually wrote a book about it, which started out as me doing Jordan Peterson's
Okay.
Write Your Life thing, his program, whatever it's called. So I started out doing that, and it ended up turning into a memoir, which was kind of like a whim. I was just like, oh, I want to write a book. I've been interested in reading and writing. I was like, I want to write a book, and it ended up being a lot more of an ordeal than I planned. But yeah, I started. I was born Christian. Like my parents are
Mhm.
Christian, very religious, Protestant, non-denominational, going to different churches. Um, you know, I just was like, I just went with the flow as a kid. You know,
Mhm.
you just think whatever your parents do is normal. So I was all into that, into Jesus and stuff. But then when I was young, maybe 7 or 8, got molested by a family friend, just like an older boy, and then that just
Mhm.
coupled with religion and like guilt. Like I just picked up on guilt, the concept of sin and like hell, and um and that just put me like in a real negative place at a very young age. Like I
Mhm.
remember even before that happened, like I remember thinking about like heaven and hell when I was about 7 years old and being like, I didn't want to go to either place because the whole concept of forever um, just seemed overwhelming. So I had like an
Mhm.
existential crisis when I was like 7 years old about that stuff. And
Damn.
I remember like running into my mom's room because I was scared because I couldn't sleep because I was worried about heaven and hell and eternity when I was like 7. And I remember my mom, whatever she said, she like prayed for me or whatever. And I remember just being like, that doesn't really make me feel better. And kind of like feeling it's like, ooh, maybe she's scared of what I'm scared of. Just kind of things I couldn't really process. But I couldn't tell her that I was afraid of heaven because I thought that that was bad. Like I thought that was a sin. Like I didn't say that. So I was dealing with these kind of like weird, abstract, deeper issues like from a very young
Mhm.
age, and then quickly I was just like, this isn't for me. Like the religion, I was trying to pray a lot to feel better, and that wasn't working. Like I wasn't feeling better at all. So in like middle school, I just was like, I dropped the religious thing. Like I'm not religious. This isn't cool. I'm not a Christian. Whatever. And then I had a pretty typical, like I would say, high school experience. I mean, maybe a little atypical. I ended up getting sent to boarding school kind of like for bad kids, just because I was like smoking weed and not doing good in school and stuff like that, and kind of just like fooling around. Got into some trouble, which was all. It really was all like I was just trying to like numb pain. Like I didn't have a good way of dealing with like the negative feelings and all that. So just try to just numb it with just like and also going through puberty. Like, so I was just, all you want is like a girlfriend and that type of shit. What teenage boys want. And
I gotcha.
and then yeah, just like got into drugs, but then also like I was interested in like the psychedelics and stuff like that. Like I remember having like Dare came to my school in middle school, and it just had the complete opposite effect. Like they talked about psychedelics a little bit, and I was just like, I'm doing that 100%. Like I was like, I'm going to do that. Like the whole concept of like hallucinations, as that was supposed to be scary to me. That just intrigued me. Like I wanted to experience psychedelics, so I was always into that. But the first time I ever did like LSD, it was just I did it so terribly. I had no idea how to like handle this stuff. Me and my friend took a couple hits of acid, and then we were taking like dexedrine, which was essentially, it's like they don't even make it. Do you know what dexedrine is?
It's basically Adderall. It's a stimulant, right? If I'm right.
Yeah, like it was like crank. Like we were just like sniffing it and taking it. Like I had no idea what I was doing. Like I didn't have a concept of like I was like just turned 16 maybe, so really stupid. So got into all doing drugs and all this stupid shit. And then eventually I got to the point spiritually of just I got to a point of nihilist. Like I was like I thought everything was pointless. Like I really I just saw like everything was pointless. We're all gonna die. Just what's the point? Like from like a philosophical standpoint. Like at the time I kind of had like my life was interesting, I suppose. Like in my 20s, I lived in New York City, and just all I did was sold weed and like partied and so like I had a lot of fun. Like it was really I had some like fun stories, but I realized that like but all that I was trying to achieve was essentially like fireworks. Like it was just like, oh, I just wanted to do stuff that was like crazy or wild. Like that's all I was looking for. There was really I had no sense of meaning, and I became like aware of that. I was like, what is everyone working towards? Like, why is everyone working and caring about all this shit? Like, we're all gonna die. Like, what are we doing? And I remember just being like, was actively thinking about those problems, and eventually, like, I was becoming like very depressed because I was losing all motivation. Like, I was making like pretty good money for someone who's in their mid-20s, and I could kind of do whatever I want. I'd done a lot of traveling, gone to like South America, Thailand, and yeah, just partied all the time. And that's what I thought like I wanted. I was like, oh, I just want to, party and like hook up with girls. Like that's what I thought was gonna make me happy or whatever. And I just got to the point where I was like, I don't care. Like I don't care about making more money, and I don't care about it's all just a black hole. And then I was like I wasn't like suicidal, but I was like, there's no point. The only reason why I wouldn't is because like it'd make my mom sad.
I gotcha.
And then I stumbled upon the book, The Myth of Sisyphus by Albert Camus.
Very okay.
Have you
awesome.
read it?
I've not read it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, so it's the first paragraph is like, there's one true philosophical question, and that is the matter of suicide. And I was like, wow, this dude gets right to the chase. And but that kind of helped me get on the path a little bit. I was like, okay, there's some people, like it gave some validity to what I was struggling with. I was like, oh, some philosophers or whatever are dealing with the same issue as I am. Because I was like, yeah, like that does, like I get that, as he seems to just get right to the the core of the issue. It's like, yeah, life is either worth living or it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but if I had a friend, we thought he died at a bachelor party, and that was like a wake up call for me. He didn't die, thank God. But I really was like convinced that I thought like a close friend of mine had drowned, and I was like, it just was kind of like a wake up call. I was like, I need to get my shit together. And then, but I was like, I didn't want to go do anything normal or whatever. I've always been terrified of like a normal job. And so I just quit. I quit selling weed like right after that. I was just like, I'm done with this. And then like I moved out of my apartment and I wanted to hitchhike across the country. Like that was my plan. Like I had this plan to hitchhike across the country, which was kind of just like escapism, I believe. And I went out to Los Angeles, hung out with some friends. My brother was out there. Then I was like, all right, I'm going to hitchhike back to the East Coast. That's going to be this like adventure thing I'm going to go on. And I bailed after one night. Like I made it. I like ended up in like getting kicked out of like a train yard in like East LA, and I was just like, "What the fuck am I doing?" I was just like, I didn't sleep. It was terrible. I was dirty, and then I just like called my brother. I'm like, "Yo, get me an Uber." He picks me up, or the Uber picks me up. I go back to my brother's, and I fly back to the East Coast, and I go and like stay with my parents. And I ended up like working at their business and just being like, "What the fuck am I doing with my life?" I was like, I think just turned 27. I like dropped out of college when I was 20,
Mm-hmm.
and had just been selling weed since then, and just selling weed and getting drunk for like 6 years. Like that was basically like all I was doing. And then I was just like, fuck, like I need to get my shit together. And that was when I found Jordan Peterson, and it's like I say it kind of like sheepish now, but really at the time, like his shit really helped me like get back on.
I understand that. I understand that completely. There's a lot of people, that we look at when we first start off, and that truly help us. And, over time, we grow, and sometimes we move on to other messages. But yeah, continue, man. I understand that.
Yeah. So that like, and then that just made me, because I was like after I failed hitchhiking across the country. So yeah, I've been just basically selling weed and fucking around all the way up until I was like 27 years old. Way too old to be doing that shit. And then I tried to hitchhike across the country, failed immediately, and then was working for my parents in like their warehouse, making like $15 an hour. And like I used to make like $500 a day when I was selling weed. And then that's what I went to making in a week. And I was just like, what the fuck am I doing? But I still had like a good amount of cash saved up. And I just was like, all I want to do is go blow all of my money on like drugs and hookers in Mexico, and then that's it. Like that's all I have. Like that's as far as I could get. Because I was just like, what am I doing? I'm in a warehouse. And I just remember being like, and it was either that or I was like, I'm gonna go do ayahuasca in the Amazon. I was like, or I can just sit here and be normal and work a job and just like try and be normal, whatever the fuck that means.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm just gonna do the safe thing. Like I'm just gonna be normal and figure shit out. And I just determined I was like, I'm gonna continue to save money while working for $15 an hour. I'm gonna get healthy. I just got really into like I was going through the self-improvement thing, like I'm gonna, I was like super healthy, woke up and start like I used to wake up whenever I wanted, like um um I could get up, I could like when I sold weed, there was times when I would go get shit faced and do drugs in like a Wednesday night till like 3 o'clock in the morning, wake up at noon and go about my day, like no problem. And like I didn't have a boss, so I could go and say whatever I wanted. Like I wasn't worried about getting in trouble or anything. I could just behave like a maniac. The only thing like I was really concerned about was like getting arrested, and I wasn't even that concerned about it. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna like go, like I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm gonna get up early. Like I would wake up and like work out before work, and then like at the end of the day like read and shit. Like that's what I was on. and I was on into like David Goggins doing like all this physical stuff. And I was like, and I realized I was like, I'm such a like a weak-minded ding dong. I realized like I was like weak. I was like, that's what I realized my problem was. I was like, I fucking, I was like, I just am like an idiot in like every, and I was like, I can't even trust myself. So I had to learn how to like build self-confidence, whatever. And like I would just do all these things to like challenge myself. Like I ran marathons. Like I was like got pretty into it. Like I went and ran a marathon with zero training. Like one Friday night, I just took off and like ran to Boston and back.
Hell yes.
But,
Hell yes, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was pretty intense. I would, jump in, do like polar plunges in February in the storm, I went and was literally like I went into Boston during January and slept as like and lived as a homeless person for like a weekend. Like I didn't bring any money and I just slept outside like on the streets, and like I asked people for like food. I was like, can you like buy me food? Like I was like I was homeless for the weekend because I realized like that was like I had this fear, this worst case scenario that I would end up like homeless and crazy. So I was like, I'm gonna need to like I'm gonna go like tackle that experience. I was like, I'll go be homeless and see what it's like. Like I got that from like reading Seneca. It was like, oh, clothe yourselves in rags, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. And that was a pretty interesting experience. So I was like doing all this stuff to, like I was, I improved my job working for my parents. I ended up like doubling my income. I increased the sales like 100% in this sales department, and I was a little department. So I was like doing all this stuff, and I was just like, and I feel like I was trying to kind of like prove to myself or whatever, or like even figure out if I could like be a normal person or whatever. And then I remember like at the end of the year, I'd like I achieved all this stuff, and I was just remember being like, oh, that's it. I just got to do it again next year. And I was like, ah, fuck, like I'm bored or whatever. I don't know. But then I was just like, and I was at this time I had read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of that one.
Well, and he says that man shouldn't answer like what's the point of life, but instead he should answer like what's the purpose of his own life. For like you don't need to be like, oh, what's the point of life in the grand scheme of things. You just need to answer for yourself in like a digestible time frame. I'm paraphrasing, but like you just need to answer for yourself over the course of like a month or a week or a day or a year. And so reading like just that sentence alone, and reading about his experience in the concentration camps, because his whole point was this was a guy who he lived through concentration camps, and his what he learned from his experience was that life is ultimately like a search for meaning, and man has to find meaning. And I was just like, okay, if this guy can get through a concentration camp, like I can parse this whole what's the point of life thing. I can put it off to the side, and like I can, whatever I'm going through, I'll figure it out. Because I was just kind of like, I was just being a ding dong, massive ding dong.
That's a good mindset, though. That's an amazing
I'm not
mindset
in a concentration camp. This guy, he got through a concentration camp. I respect that. I'm fucking fine. Like everything's fine. I'm not in a concentration camp. And that's a mentality that serves me well. Like I'm just being like, am I in a concentration camp right now? Am I in prison? And I'm like, nah. And that's like, well, I'm fucking balling then. Like I'm the man. I'm doing great.
We're doing great. Yes, exactly.
And then eventually I started getting kind of like bored, and I was just like, I don't actually care. And I was like, all right. But I was like very determined to like not go back to nihilism. I was like, nihilism sucks so bad. And I know what it's like I know what it's like to like live as a nihilist, and I know where that ends up. And I was like, so anything but that. So like I started, doing I got into like more psychedelic stuff. Like I was getting all spiritual. I realized I was like, all right, I know that I'm not, I was like, I should just focus on myself, but I was like, I really am curious about like, what's the point of life? Like, what's going on? Like, I went back to church and stuff, and I was like, this is lame as shit. Like, I'm not going back. Like, this isn't the answer. I know a lot of people like turn back to religion, and I was like, this is light speed corny. Like, I was like, you guys are saying the same shit that I thought was stupid when I was in middle school. You're saying the exact same thing, the exact same stuff. And I was just like, and that kind of like confounded me. So like kind of in the back of my head, I was still just really I was like actually trying to figure out what's going on. Like, what's the point of life? I was really trying to figure out like why my actions matter. And I started kind of just like fucking around, like just going out more and just like casual hookups and all this stuff. And I didn't really have a purpose anymore. And I was starting to get depressed, and I was just like, all right, well, like, I need to figure it out. Like, I'm not letting myself just like I'm not trying to hitchhike across the country and ended up on the side of the road again. Like, I'm not going back to just like selling weed and being a degenerate. So I was like, all right, I need to figure it out. And I just like turned off my phone. Like, I just like turned off all the internet for like 2 weeks, and I was just like, I would only go to work and then go to the gym and like go home, and it was just like, and then I went hiking for a few days and like just slept in the back of my car and just like just basically lived in like the woods for like 4 days, and I was like happy as a clam. I got a migraine in the woods, and I got caught in a lightning storm on top of a mountain, got soaked. So it was kind of like shitty, but I was like, I had a great time, and I was like, I don't need shit, and I was like, I'm single, like I don't need to, I was kind of like concerned about like my standing of like my status and stuff like this, like, oh, I'm this age, so I should have this. Like, I'd saved up a bunch of money. I was like, should I put a down payment on a house? And then I was just like, no, fuck that. I was like, I'm gonna quit my job, sell my shit, and travel the world. And so that's what I decided to do. And that's when COVID happened. And I was really scared. I was like worried about my future. And then I decided, I was like, well, I'm just going to go sit in my uncertainty. I signed up for a 10-day silent meditation retreat where you just sit there and meditate for 10 hours a day for 10 days.
That must have been interesting.
It was very interesting. And I think I was starting to kind of understand it towards the end. And like, I just like, because I would notice like, so you're meditating all the time. And I noticed like my thoughts completely were in control of how I felt. And they said, and that's one of the things they taught. It was like, everything you experience is just simply sensations on the body. Like, everything you experience is simply a sensation on the body. So if you get more in tune with your control over your bodily sensations, like, you're fine, you're fucking enlightened, whatever the fuck. And that was a very interesting experience, because like, I sold most of my shit, I sold my car, I just had like some clothes and books in storage. I had no idea what the future held. I had nothing lined up for me when I got home, and I just was sitting in silence in like a shack in northern Argentina with nothing. And I realized I was like, I was fine. Everything was fine. Like, and I was just like, and I was like, wow, because like before that I was so worried. Like, I was getting worried about like, oh, I need to do this, I need that, money, blah 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 blah. And it was a really profound experience to be like, I don't need any, like, I literally need nothing. But I'm not a Buddhist. Like, I wasn't like, okay, I'm just going to do nothing for the rest of my life now. I was like, still, adios, got life to live. And I ended up going to Antarctica. I was traveling through Patagonia. And then it was very interesting. But I was also just like, I don't care about this shit either. Like, there was still this part of me that was like, I want answers. Like, I want to know why my actions matter. Like, why it matters what I do. Like, why does it matter if I'm a degenerate or if I'm a good person? Like, how does it stack up? I was like, I wanted to know. Like, I'd done so much reading and you know, it's like I've done all this shit, like reading meditation, psychedelics, that ayahuasca, smoke DMT, mushrooms, spiritual, fucking read the Bible, go to church, Jesus, everything. And it was just like, nothing seemed to be sticking. And I was like, fuck, I want the answers. Like, I had already experienced like kind of crashing out with money. Like, I was like, I don't, the only point of money is to go places and get girls. And I was like, I got bored of that. So it was just like, shit. And then I was like, and then COVID happened. So I had to go home, blah, 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 whatever. And then I was kind of just like on a whim. I was like, oh, I'm going to write this book. I'm going to write about nihilism. And through writing the book, I realized that I thought I had figured shit out, but then through writing, I realized I haven't figured anything out. I was like, fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm stuck. And then I was just kind of going, just working. And then I started a company with my siblings. So I was really busy doing that. It was kind of fun. And then it was just like, I ran a 50-mile ultra marathon. That kept me busy. And then I was like trying to figure out what I was going to do. I was just like getting kind of bored, and then like work kind of like stabled, and I was just like I had a bunch of free time, like the business was running, and I went to I climbed Kilimanjaro, and then I was
very nice.
Climbing the tallest mountain in Mexico, and then I was like almost to the top, and then I just got like I got too really cold and like tired, and I was like, I don't give a shit about this. I was like 18,000 feet, freezing, and I was just like, I don't care about this mountain. Like, I don't care to get to this summit. And then I was like, shit, like, well, what do I care about? Like, I need something to care about. And it was just like, you have to finish writing your book. And I was like, fuck, that is what I need to work on. You know, just focus on the task at hand, focus on your life at hand. I was like, I need to write this book. And then I was like, I'm stuck. Because I was stuck like in life. I was stuck with the book that I was trying to write. But I really felt like that's what I was supposed to do. And then I just decided, I was like, well, I need to find something that motivates me. Like, I'm not going back to nihilism, because that's just like death is on the other side of that. And so I was like, I tried to figure out what
you're not wrong about that one.
And then I realized I was like, I had unfinished business with this hitchhiking across the country thing. It was like a personal, I felt like it won, I lost. Like, I tried and I failed, and I felt like I needed to like do it. So I was like, I'm gonna bike across the country. And then I was like, yeah, like that's what I'm supposed to do. And then after I decided to bike across the country, I had a religious experience. And that's just the best way to describe it, because there's a book called the Varieties of Religious Experience by William James. The book was probably published over 100 years ago, and I owned the book, but I had never written it. I never read it. And on the cover of the book is like an open like portal, like it looks like the sky is open up to like another sky. And during this experience I experienced something just like that. And then after I had that experience, I'm like, I'm gonna go read that book. And reading the book, it was like so profound that I like couldn't read it. Like, it was like too heavy to read. Because it was like, damn, like I related to it so much. And I just had this like experience where the only way to really describe it is, and one of the ways that William James characterizes religious experience is that like you can't describe it with language. Like, language just
you
falls
can't.
short. And that definitely happened. And I was like sober when it happened. I had maybe 2 drinks and like smoked a little joint with like 2 other people. Like, I would have driven my grandmother around, and it just like happened out of nowhere. And it was as its level of intensity was that of like DMT out of nowhere. Like, it's just all of a sudden. And it felt like God was like chastising me. And I felt like the secrets of the universe or whatever were being downloaded into my mind. Like, I was understanding heaven and hell. I was understanding like the weight of the gravity of the situation that we're in life. And like, I understood Jesus. And it got to the point where I was like, this is going to break me. Like, I can't handle that. And then like once I like resisted, I was like, okay, I balked. I was like, stop, like this is too much. It's gonna kill me or destroy me. And then it felt like God was being like, yeah, that's what I thought. Like, you can't handle that shit. It's above your pay grade. Don't worry about it. Just focus on what you need to focus on. Your life. You're not supposed to be able to comprehend everything that's going on, know all this shit, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's literally above your pay grade. Thank you for your concern. Go away. And then it was like, I came back down to reality, and it was just like, well, that was strange. And because I was just walking down the hall in a hunting cabin to take a shower. And then I just like took a shower and went to bed, and I was reading Animal Farm at the time. And I started reading that. I'm like, I can't fucking read that shit right now. I was like, that's way too fucking serious. Because this was like
I know
during,
what that book is. Yep. I know
yeah,
what
this
that
was like
book is.
during the lockdowns. And I was like, yo, some real shit is going on right now. And it just felt like, and it was like, it, so I felt like I experienced so much. And again, like I said, difficult to put into words, but one of it was just like, I felt like the weight of like the responsibility of just like being of existence. Like it's a big fucking deal. It's not like it's not nothing. It's not an accident. It's not pointless. It's not meaningless. It's not random. Like there's some shit is going on, and
Oh,
you just need
absolutely.
to exist as a human. And you just focus on what you need to do, and that's it. And like that's what anyone needs to do. If they just focus on them, what they feel like they're supposed to do, as if they do their best, like that's fucking it. Like that's enough. That will keep you busy. And then after that, like it just felt like all of my what's the point of life, blah blah blah. It's been done. It's like it just squashed it. Like I don't have those issues anymore.
An
And
experience like that will do that to you, man.
yeah,
It definitely will. It'll give you a perspective shift, man. I want to touch on a couple of things that you brought up, man. Just real quick. So the nihilism thing, I got to commend you for getting out of that. That seems to be we've all kind of been there, in our experience here, and hearing your story right now, it truly reminds me of myself and a lot of the things I've been through. And hearing your story, a lot of people have maybe not the same, but have gone through something similar, man. And one thing about nihilism, I use this analogy with it. Nihilism is you buy a plane ticket there, or you buy a cruise ticket there. You don't buy a house there. You don't set up shack or set up a home in the nihilistic perspective. You visit there, you're there temporarily, and you usually leave it. Most people do. So I got to give you props for that, man. And also too, I kind of understand what you mean by the when you were calling like weak-minded ding dong, because I look back at myself, going through a lot of the things that I went through, man. You and I have a very similar story when it comes to a lot of things, and it is. It's a matter of being honest with yourself, and it's something that I feel a lot of people have a hard time doing. And really taking a hard look at yourself and going like, look, man, like I am not doing what I need to be doing right now. I'm not even fulfilling any kind of meaning or purpose here by these actions or behaviors that I'm undergoing and I'm undertaking at this point. So, and the other thing too, man, I'm gonna tell you, you seem like a real spiritual guy, man. The 9 to 5 doesn't work for us spiritual people. It does not. I'm in a not so bad position with mine at this point in time, but one of my goals is I'm working my way out of it myself, man. And I got to tell you, it's just something it doesn't sync up with us. It doesn't. We have a different mindset. We have a different perspective on this existence. Even before we cultivated the space or the mindset that we're in now, we see things differently. We experience this world differently. I think it's always been in you, man, based on what I'm hearing, from your childhood. Also, dealing with religion, that resonates with me as well. I grew up in the middle of the schism. My mom's side of the family is Roman Catholic. My dad's side of the family is Greek Orthodox. So I'm gonna say, man, your story is very profound, and to have a sober, non-drug induced spiritual experience like that, especially while you were biking,
Sorry,
you were
this is before I was biking, and actually,
okay.
I felt like, so I decided to bike across the country, and I was just like, and I felt like confident that that's what I was supposed to be doing, however I understood at the time. And then when I had this religious experience, I had been talking with two of my friends, work associate guys, and I felt that in hindsight now, it seems that I had the religious experience as kind of a culmination of an an awareness that I had, because when I was talking with the guys I was in the hunting cabin with, we were talking about like the transitioning of children and all that shit that's going on, and I said out loud, I was like, I think like it's evil, like there's evil going on, like people participate in it, not consciously, like, ooh, I'm trying to be evil, but there's evil stuff that's out there, and people can be caught up in it or whatever, and this is evil. I was like, and I'd never like really said that out loud. Like I never realized that like I conceptualized that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like as soon as I had this psychological um like realization of evil, I immediately had a religious experience, an experience with God, whatever you want to call it. Because I didn't see Jesus. I just saw it was just like a white light. And that was like it remind me of like the one or whatever talked about in like Neoplatonism or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, the monad. Yeah, totally.
So and and then I was just like, I just felt like confirmed, being like, oh well, because a part of me was like, oh, I was like 32 or 31, whatever I was, being like, oh, I'm quitting, like I'm just leaving this company like with these people to go bike across the country, like what the fuck. Like I was caught up in like what society wants me to do and being like what God wants me to do, just to use that language, because I know that's still such a messy term for so many people, but for me there isn't a better one than God. Like there's not, to get to communicate what I mean, or what I think someone would think that I mean. Like I was just like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. And then when I biked across the country, it just felt like it was the right thing to do. And then right after that, I met my now wife. Like,
congrats on that, by the way.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, I just got married like 3 days ago.
Well, dude, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Congrats on being a married man. Yeah.
Thank you. So much, like so many things just like fell into place. Like, because before that, I was like, I want to have kids at some point, but marriage is gay. Fucking
it's faking gay. It's faking gay.
It's fucking stupid, and it's lame, and monogamy's, but I was like, oh, I want to have kids, and then but I would like feel guilty about like hooking up, just like hooking up with girls, because I would feel like I felt bad, because I would like, there's all these girls that are just being so. I mean, I don't think casual sex. I don't believe sex is casual. You can treat it casually, just like you can treat firearms casually, but it's not
a casual thing. No, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
But then I was like, but I was like, what am I going to be, a monk? And I was like, I'm not going to be a fucking monk. So I would be like stuck in this thing. And then I was like, I was dating this girl, and then I was like, what am I doing? Like, I'm going to break up with her at some point. And I was going, might as well break up with her now. And I felt bad. And then like I broke up, and then I was like, oh, I miss you. Like fucking doing that shit. And I was like, what am I doing? I'm not, I'm like, I'm acting like I'm fucking 19. Like, this is retarded. And then yeah, when I met my wife, my now wife, it was just like I had no intention of having a girlfriend, but then it's just like these things just kind of like fell into place. Like honestly, she seems like a godsend. And then
she was the right one at the right time, man. That's what happened. You'd gotten to a point where you had grown, you have evolved, and you have cultivated yourself as a human being, where you attracted the person that was right for you.
Yeah, we met. Yes, that is, I think, what was what happened. And then like I met her and I was like, we started basically dating, and then I was like, damn, like I'm planning on biking across the country and I'm still gonna do that. And I was like, I have to tell this girl. And I was like, hey, like I'm gonna bike across the country. And she was like, you know, she was surprised because she's just a normal lady. And then but we decided to like be together while I did that, which I thought was pretty foolish and was like not going to work out. And but I was like, I'll just go for it because I like her, and if it works, that's great, and if it doesn't, it probably won't. No big deal. And she came and visited me 3 times on the trip, and it just went good. And then when I came back, like we just moved in together, like kind of accidentally. Like I just like would stay at her house all the time. Like I was paying rent at my brother's spot, and I just never went there. And then I was like, oh, I guess I move in. And then I was just like, I'm moving in with a woman. And I was just like, this is pretty serious. Like I need to figure out what I'm doing with my life. And then I just was like, at this point, like I gotten back into praying, but I would be like, what am I doing? Who am I talking to? Like, what is going on? But then I was just like, there's something going on. Like, I don't have any doubt about that. Like, there's something going on. So I should align myself with that intention. Like, I know that fuck nihilism. Some things are better than others. Like, obviously, like, what is the best thing for me to do? What am I supposed to do? And I just caught this idea to bike to and climb the tallest mountain in every single state. And then I was just like, I'm going to bring, and this girl's going to come with me. And after that, we'll get married. And at first when I brought it up, she thought it was retarded. But then I convinced her and it went well. And then it was like, all right, we're getting married. And it was just like, we've been together for a little over 2 years now, but
awesome, man.
Yeah. And I just feel like, because I would get bored with like normal life, I was like, I need like more responsibility. And this is what I just felt like it was like, all right, well, do this. And then it's like the more you do, then the more you get. And I've really experienced like a lot of synchronicity for whatever that's worth, you know? And I've experienced like a lot of like validation that I'm on the right track. Yeah, I had a really great wedding, and yeah, and it feels very much like I'm on the right track, even though I've had a million existential crises along the way of just being like, because it hasn't been what I've been doing hasn't made sense financially or practically or whatever, but I just felt like I felt like it was what I was supposed to do, and and yeah, I just keep moving forward, and maybe stuff makes sense, and maybe not everything does, and being okay with the uncertainty.
That's a good thing to be, man. Yeah, it's one of the biggest things I'm a proprietor of is finding peace within the chaos. And I mean the chaos, I mean, it can be you can look at uncertainty as chaos, most certainly. And to me, man, it sounds like you're living, I understand the existential crises at times. I get that. I sit there at least a few times a month. I look at myself and be like, am I doing this the way I should be doing this? Or, am I doing this in the way that I see fit? Is this going to be a fulfilling, route for me to take? But man, it sounds like you're living a fulfilling life. You're living a spiritually fulfilling life. I think the wisdom, at least from what I'm hearing, from what you said, you could take from this experience that you had is, that being a human is special. And that's something that, a lot of these, I wouldn't say the entire spiritual community. I'm going to say more the new age community. They cast aside their humanity. They're like, I don't want to be a human anymore. I want to be back in the higher realms. I don't want, but like, dude, you wouldn't be here being a human if you didn't make that choice to come here and be a human, at least in my opinion. So, I mean, to
or at
me,
least
it sounds
there's an intentionality that resulted in this, in you being here and me being here. Like there's
Absolutely, man.
So yeah, it's not an accident. So to be like, oh, I want to be fucking in the ether, I want to be a star. It's just like, yo, you are a star. Like fucking, like your experience is, it's important, it's special, whatever. And it's
Absolutely.
like, and to not don't waste it.
Oh, agreed, man. Agreed, man. And that's the thing too, man. And to me, in my eyes, man, I'm listening to your story, and like I said, I hear a lot of my story in your story, and I've undergone a lot of the same struggles that you have, selling drugs, hooking up with random girls, all of that too, man. And it's not a way to live. It's an energy drain. It's a soul trap, at least. And you realize that you maybe at the time didn't exactly completely understand it, but you had that realization within you, and this is why you were having, at least in my opinion, a lot of these conflicting feelings in this existential crisis. I mean, you're still going to have existential crises; they're not going to stop. You're going to come across new information, or you're going to come across something that can contradicts a core belief that you have, and it's going to send you back into one. But it sounds like now that you've kind of been through the hoops of fire, you've been through the ringer, you've gotten yourself to this place in your life, and I gotta say, man, you got respect, and I commend you. It's not an easy thing, to pick yourself up off the ground, um, when you've been living a certain way for so long, and it's not easy to try and better yourself when you've become complacent with how you've become. But the fact that you did that, man, that speaks volumes. That's awesome.
Thank
Like,
you.
yeah, for sure,
Yeah,
man. So go ahead. No, what were you gonna say?
I was just say, yeah, one of the most important things I've done is taken a real good thought about death, and being like, I'm going, like, really sit down with the fact that you're going to die someday, and that this is um uh this is temporary, for better or for worse. This is all temporary. But just because something's temporary doesn't mean it's not important. So, like, this is this is it's temporary, and it's going to end, and that's helped remind me. And again, going, I feel like certain things have been, use them as like mental tools or spiritual tools, where it's just like, I'm not in fucking prison right now. I'm not.
Mhm.
I'm not in a concentration camp. I'm fine. Namaste. I'm all right. You know what I mean?
Fuck yeah,
And it's
dude.
just like
No,
most
eh,
of it. I think if you are at your lowest point, like, you're probably close to, you're close to like breaking through, because you, like I said, like I've experienced a lot, but I've also experienced just sitting there with nothing, almost nothing, sleeping on a cot, eating two meals a day, and then two half pieces of fruit at night, and just sitting there all day, and then everything was fine. And
mhm.
Vipassana, whatever you call it, those retreats are free. You can just go to one. Like, if you're homeless,
Mhm.
go meditate for 10 days.
Absolutely, man. No,
Maybe you'll learn
and
something. Like,
I
and
honestly, I'm with you on that, man. I agree. I think a lot of people should undergo that experience, and that's one I've yet to go under. I do my fair share of meditating every day, but never for 10 hours a day. So I think that would definitely be a unique experience in and of itself, man. But it's your mindset, man. And I think your story really showcases how our mental faculties do interact with our existence, and it's truly a thing, and this is why I'm such a I'm a big proponent for panpsychism, one of the
for what?
newest up panpsychism. It's one of the newest up and coming theories in quantum physics. And
Okay.
so basically what it is it states as consciousness is the prime fundamental for the perceived and experienced physical reality. So, meaning that we have the implicate, which is the consciousness observer, which is observing the explicate, which is this perceived existence that the implicate is experiencing. And so, what that does is it puts consciousness kind of on the forefront as what I would call the prime fundamental of this existence. And what that does, man, is that takes our it's one of the most hated theories in quantum physics right now for the fact of the
Yeah,
matter.
I hate it already.
Yeah, hey, exactly, exactly. No, but dude, because number one, it takes our place here, um, in the universe, from being a coincidence and by chance to being absolutely necessary. We have to be here, and you kind of touched on that a little bit in the beginning, on how, this life, there is some kind of, this wasn't by accident. Like there was some kind of driving force behind this, and also it kind of it de-objectifies a lot of reality. I mean, we would be dealing essentially at that point with a collective of subjective realities. So that's kind of a tough one for a lot of materialistic scientists to kind of wrap their head around, man. But if that's the case, man, your mental faculties do interact with your reality, and that mindset speaks everything, man.
No, they
And
hundred, but that's
yeah.
not even, like an abstraction. And first off, the materialists are all goobers. Fucking what's his name? Richard Dawkins, all Sam Harris, all those guys, Chris
Hmm.
Hitchens, even Hitchens. People love Hitchens. Hitchens is a fucking nerd. God is not great. That book he wrote, that book sucked. Like, it's not smart. Like, these people aren't as smart as they think. These are they're
I agree.
the fucking meme of the bell curve.
Yep.
Yeah, so they're a little bit past, like they're smart, and then they make all their money and fame by selling shit to the fucking midwits. Meanwhile, I don't feel any of them ever addressed like what was put forth by like Dostoevsky or Tolstoy. They don't address that. They
Hmm.
strawman religion and then made themselves famous off of it. And the
I agree.
materialists,
Yeah.
Terence McKenna made a great point when talking about like the explanation of the Big Bang. Like, there's nothing and then all this complexity. It's the worst explanation. It's actually the worst explanation. And then that narrative dominates our culture. Actually, it's one of the main ideas that's underneath our fucking culture, and especially for the materialists, that it's all just, it's an accident and we all evolve this way. It's retarded. It's the worst explanation that all of this just happened by accident. It's a terrible explanation, and
I
it's so,
agree.
and it's the I'm beating a dead horse. It's like if you walked into a building and it was like, oh, this happened by accident, no one would fucking think that. Yet all of existence is infinitely more complex than any buildings that exist. And it's, oh yeah, this was an accident. You're an idiot if you think that. So a lot of the people, the smart people, are morons. And
I would agree with that. That I resonate. And you're right, man, because one of the best analogies I use, I mean, and I've talked with a lot of atheists about this, and it kind of
yeah,
even lends
atheists
credence.
are morons.
Yeah.
I hope you're
Oh,
not an atheist.
no, I'm not, dude. You know for sure I'm not. And freaking, but this is the analogy I use, man. So one thing I've actually made a lot of atheists think with this, and maybe you can take it with you and do the same. So one of the biggest things, man, we see in this universe is the intense, freakish organization and the intense, what I would say, self similarity on all scales. And there's multiple examples of this. I'm not gonna go into the many. I mean, I would say at this point hundreds of thousands of examples of how organized this universe is. So organization takes conscious intent to organize. You have to have intention. Organization does not happen without awareness. So like, you don't just go into your room, and throw all of your clothes up in the air, and by accident and by chance, they all land perfectly folded in the fucking drawers they need to be in. Like that doesn't happen. You go in and you make that intention. You're like, okay, I have to fold, organize, and put away my clothes. So, and a lot of the responses that atheists come back at me with, well, the universe adapted. Well, adaptation is conscious. You have to be aware to adapt. If you don't have awareness, how do you know that you need to adapt? And that's like the biggest thing they keep trying to hit on that, man. So I'm with you. I think, in my eyes, man, I think a lot of what we see today as the consensual narrative when it comes to science creation. It's all a fucking ploy. It's all a ploy to hide our true nature from us. And I'm pretty sure you feel the same way at this point.
I have, I've still continued to think about this deeper, this deep stuff. And what's the one thing, the CTMU? Do you know what I'm talking about?
CTMU.
Never
Going
mind.
a little
I don't
deeper on
remember.
that.
I don't know,
Yeah,
some theory from like he's supposed to be like the most intelligent guy in the world or something. He's just like a Midwestern white dude who's supposed to have like a 250 IQ. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I've heard of it. I don't know
thing,
if it's called CTMU. Yeah, no, but I've heard of what you're talking about.
Yeah, like I think you'll find that there's a lot of wisdom in religion. There's a lot of wisdom in Christianity. A lot of the work has already been done. A lot of the work, but most people they don't know. Like I can't. But like if someone's like, oh, identifies as an atheist, I'm just like, you're a fucking idiot. Like you haven't thought. You don't think. Like you're a child. Like why would you even say such a thing? Like it's the dumbest. So
no, I'm with you, dude. I know, dude. Trust me, I understand your
you know
rant,
what I mean.
man.
And
I do, yeah.
But in terms of like, I still, it's very quickly to fall. I feel like fall victim to this desire to need to understand shit, to need to like, I need to know what's going on. And like you see like the Christians falling over themselves trying to explain everything. It's like, try this on for size. I don't know. I don't fucking know. I don't know what's going on. To be able to say it's just I don't know, and be able to be okay with that, and just realize it's like no matter what, I still am gonna find myself at the only thing I can control is me, if I can even control myself. That's it, and that's all I ever have to do is just like figure out what am I going to do about this? What am I going to do about this? What am I going to do about this? And because it's like I've worried, like sometimes like I've been high and like worried and like started getting like uncomfortable thinking about like simulation theory or something. Like it's all a simulation. It's like, okay, then it's all a simulation. What are you going to do? Nothing. What am I going to do differently? Nothing. Like I'm not going to go commit a felony because we live in a simulation and end up in simulation jail, because that would simulation blow.
If people start simulate,
Simulations suck. So that's all you have to do is just, what am I going to do about this? What am I doing? And for the most part, like enlightenment, I feel like is just people who just stop asking fucking questions. Like they're stop being like, oh, excuse me, like how do you? I was meditating, but I had a thought. Am I okay? It's like, just stop asking other people like you're just breathe. You're gonna live and you're gonna die and you're going to fuck up and you're not gonna be perfect. And another I think good thing it was from Terrence McKenna is like death is perfectly safe.
Oh yeah.
Like it's like everything is fine. Like that's where faith comes in. But people all bicker. Oh no, like your thing says, resident heretic. Like people have been burned alive for being like, oh, you know what? I actually think hell is a little bit more like this. I was like, well, fuck you, you're being burned alive. Like, thank God we're like, you don't have to worry about you're an American. No one's gonna burn you alive unless you do it yourself because of Palestine. And that's like, and that's where I feel like to actually get to the subject matter of what this podcast is supposed to be about was where physical fitness comes in. Like, go for a walk, do some push-ups, breathe, ground yourself. The physical activity grounds you, says grounded. Like, not like it's mind-boggling how unhealthy people are. And then like, oh, I have all this. It's like, well, no shit. Like you don't even walk. Like you sit at a desk and in your car and on your couch all day long, eating carbs.
I'm with you, man.
So
I'm with you, man. It's to me, it is, man. We I was talking on a show. I was actually on my friend Ryder's show, talking about this about a couple weeks ago, and it is, man. It's one of the biggest things we are dealing with right now is a health epidemic here. I'd say that's one of the true things that we're dealing with here in the United States for sure. And on top of that, also, man, there's still a lot of people in the conscious collective who have not made the realization about their physical health being intertwined with their energetic health. And that was one of the first things I noticed when I embarked on my health and fitness journey, at the young age of 20, was I noticed how profoundly it changed my, not just my body, but my energy, my mental state, my overall well-being, my confidence, man. It completely altered who I am for the better. And you're absolutely right, man. Like even just looking at the what I'll say is the consensual population, and diving into the conscious collective too, man. We still have a lot of people. Health is the thing about health, man, is what it instills in us. Number one, discipline. You have to be disciplined. You have to cultivate discipline to do this, okay? Because one of my biggest things is you want to have discipline before motivation, because you're not always going to be motivated, but you're always going to have discipline. And that's one of the biggest things I talk about too. So that's one thing I want to just relay to a lot of the viewers tonight, is how much their physical health will impact their spiritual health. And it sounds like you've experienced that. I mean, you've seen that change within yourself, man. I mean, dude, you're a lot like me. You decided to run a marathon with no training. Like, you just decided to hop. I mean, dude, I've competed in powerlifting meets. The first one was kind of off the cuff, not really trained for it, but like I went and did it anyways, like, and it's about having that mental capacity to understand that you can achieve great things. You can master this reality, at least when it comes to yourself. And it's just such a thing, man. I think that is so underutilized at this point in time, that people just feel like they can jump from step 1 to step 10. And what I'm saying is this is they want to cultivate their spiritual side, but they don't want to cultivate their spiritual body, their physical body as well. And there's something in my life that I've gone through whenever I've tried to hop from step 1 to step 10. I call it the divine backhand. The divine backhand comes and it'll slap you back down to step 1. And it'll be like, no, you're not doing it this way. You're gonna do it the right way. So I mean, you've experienced that, man. Like I can see that, based on your story and based on what you're telling me, that that your physical health did kind of catalyze this spiritual growth within you as well.
Well, yes. So one of the things that this Bible verse I put in my book. I mean, my book was I basically told you my book. And I mean, because it ended.
I still want to read it though, so I'm gonna get a copy from
an
you because I'm
easy read.
interested.
It's
Yeah,
quick.
yeah.
It's I wanted it. It moves like I've talked to people, like I read it in a sitting. I read it in 2 sittings. Like people are fucking. There's a gazillion books out there. Like, who the fuck wants to read a book? It goes. I wanted to move like really fast, but I ended with like a Bible verse. I think it was a Bible verse from Jeremiah, and it said, "You will seek me, and you will find me when you seek me with all your heart." Talking about
I
God.
like that.
And I felt that, like, truly, I was seeking understanding God, whatever, same thing. Like I was truly seeking that. Like, and it wasn't like, oh, I'm trying. Like I was like, I fucking traveled to the ends of the earth. Like I was biked across the country, which I realized because I was like trying to, like, why do I want to do this? Why do people even run marathons? Like, these things have been parts of our culture and people just accept it, but I don't think people really understand them. And I think, like, for instance, like a biking across the country, it was a pilgrimage. That's what and that people have been doing them for forever, but no one talks about it in our culture anymore. It's not like a part of our culture. Like, oh, I'm going on a pilgrimage, even though it kind of is, but it's like a thing that people don't really know what to do with, but people do them. And that's what it was for me. And that's exactly what I needed. And that's what the impulse was for the hitchhiking thing. I needed a pilgrimage, but I didn't understand it. I wasn't prepared. I had no idea what I was doing. I was fucking lost. I needed to do something easier. And And the biking across the country thing was really good for me. And in terms of like the physical thing, it was, looking back, things like make more sense. And it was like this, like I had to go through this process of doing like all this physical shit. Like for me, like climbing mountains and doing these physical challenge was like directly aligned with meaning. Like one of the first things I did was I went and climbed Mount Whitney by myself, like the tallest mountain in the continental United States. I'd never done anything like that before. I did it in one day, did it by myself. Actually took acid and did it too. And
that must have been interesting.
Yeah, I did it in one day, and I like it, and it was a little gnarly, but like I did it, but it was like my meaning was directly aligned with that. Like, oh, I need to do this, whatever. And like when I was climbing the mountain in Mexico, and then I realized I was like, I don't give a shit about this because it's like it's not a first descent, it's not a speed record. Who cares? And then and that was when, but that like allowed me to develop. Like I developed a lot of mental, psychological, spiritual things through doing the physical activities. And now it's just good to now I kind of do that stuff more for fun. It's interesting. I like going outside, but it's not directly aligned with meaning. And now it's like now I feel like what I'm supposed to do is just communicate these things more, because it's like I think more people should do pilgrimages. More people should. I think people really slack on physical fitness because they don't value it, and I think they should. I think rites of passage should, like, there should be a male rite of passage in
I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that 100%.
You're seeing them come about online, but they're so corny. Like when you're doing them for like men groups, if you're paying money to do it, it's like you're doing it wrong, and they're too aligned with like the psychological breakdown of like special forces training. It's like you're not building mindless soldiers, because that's what you are doing when you are belittling someone. So this belittling, like calling people men pussies and shaming them over a weekend, is fucking stupid. Like all that.
I've seen these groups you're talking about before, where it's like these guys are paying like, I think it's like almost like 5 Gs.
It's retarded.
Almost something something along those lines. Yeah.
But it is a move in the right direction. But like the only way it can be done properly is when it's being done by men who, and this is the right way to say it, even though it sounds weird, men who love you, like your dad, your uncle, men in your fucking community, and they're not doing it for money or for marketing some fucking men are pussies now type thing, because it's like you have to be a man, because the purpose of being a human is we create reality to a certain extent. We control it's what happens. I think Jordan Peterson is right. It's like you move the world towards heaven or towards hell. Like that is you make the world better or worse, and you're in on that shit if you're alive. Like you can't be like, oh, I'm not involved. It's like, no, you're involved. You're here. You're here
doing it. No, yeah.
It's like prison. It's like you're in a gang. You're joined, and
almost 8 billion strong at this point. Fuck yeah, right, no, exactly. It is
humans, baby. And I think rites of passage, like we're going to slack until we do that. And I'm absolutely, when I have a son, I don't know exactly how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna do something. And also that was like another really interesting thing I learned, which I saw, like, you read things and see things that are kind of like, markings along the path that guide you. And and one of them is like a quote from like Nietzsche. It said, it's not like a quote, it was just part of like a poem, and he said, what's silent in the father speaks in the son. And it reminds me of, and Jung kind of talked about the same thing, where it's just like, if you avoid something, it's going to like manifest in your kids. And I really felt like what people are supposed to do in broad terms, what I'm supposed to do is like fulfill my potential, and anything that like I avoid is going to in some way, shape, or form be manifest in my kids. Because at one point, like before I kind of had my religious experience and like learned more stuff, I felt I was like, oh well, I guess I'll just be normal and like have kids. But then I felt I was like, no, like these issues that I've been trying to work through, like what's the point of life? Why do my actions matter? Like I was like, I need to answer that, because if I have a kid and then they fucking ask me and they come to me being like, Dad, I'm struggling with that stuff, and I go, well, I gave up when I ran into it and I just had you instead of dealing with it. I was like, that's unacceptable. Like, I'm not allowed to have kids until I figure this shit out. So when my kid comes to me with these types of issues, I can be like, I handled it. And not just like, oh, I figured out an abstract. It's like, I lived it. So I'm going to ask you to give 100% because I did. And I can say that I did, instead of just being like, oh, well, you should do this, because I felt like I didn't have any guide. Like my parents are good people, but like I didn't look up to people when I was a kid. Like I thought everyone was a fucking idiot when I was like, there's a few, and I realized that now that I'm an adult, I can say that there are issues in our culture. Like there's massive issues that you couldn't
100%,
articulate as a kid, but I felt like a lot of people like picked up on, and it was
well,
like,
one thing you're doing is breaking generational curses, man. I think I mean, when it comes to the inner work, I prefer inner work. I don't like to use the term shadow work anymore. I think it gets overused a lot. But that's one of the, at least in my eyes, it's one of the prime fundamentals of a spiritual path, or a spiritual evolution, because you're absolutely right. Because if you don't handle this stuff, and you don't think through this, and you don't, work through these issues and find these meanings, and find this deep understanding within you, you are going to pass it on to the next child. I mean, and I've even seen that, when it comes to my existence. When I look at both of my parents, like I see a lot of the things that they never resolved in themselves that I'm having to resolve now, that I'm going through, and I'm working through, and I'm figuring it out. And it's a very wise thing you're doing, man. Like you're putting thought into that, and you're not haphazardly jumping into it. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's people who have kids on accident at young ages and things like that. That's a different story. But I mean, I think you're taking a very smart approach, man. You're not. You're looking to heal this aspect of yourself. You're looking to get yourself to what I would call a spiritually sound point before you make that leap in responsibility. So if your child does come to you with something like this, and this is good for all of the parents listening right now who are potentially dealing with this is a great talking point for that. But no, man, I think that's the right thing to do. I mean, that's why I haven't necessarily had kids yet. I feel there's, I feel that there's still a little bit of work for me to do before I go down that road. And there's nothing wrong with that, man. And that's the one thing too. And the whole rite of passage thing, I completely agree with. I always think of the old vision quests that of the native tribes and the indigenous peoples, where they would take a boy who's getting ready to become a man, and they would send him out to the woods for 3 days with no food or no water. And they would have him cultivate himself and learn through that experience. Now, as far as the no food and water goes, I mean, maybe that might have been a little too extreme, but I'm with you, man. I think one of the biggest things that I have an issue with in this world right now is that masculinity has become toxic. All forms of it. Not, you know what I mean? And that's completely wrong, because what's happening is, at least in my eyes, there is an agenda to feminize men, to take masculinity away from men, labeling all aspects of masculinity as toxic. And it's almost as if that's one of my biggest quirks right now, because it, one of the things I am I have a huge belief in is balance. We have balance of the hemispheres of our brain. We have balance of the energies. We have alignment of ourselves. Okay. And when we as men disregard our masculine nature, or we're doing it because society is telling us to do it, or we're doing it because the women around us are telling us to do it, or things like that, we ultimately fall out of balance, and we fall out of alignment. And character building for men is something that's kind of gone out the window also too, man. Like you were saying, everybody's sitting on the couch in their car, sitting at a desk. They're not getting up, they're not moving, they're not challenging themselves. Because if you look at the nature of the human being needs challenge to evolve. And the human being needs to face difficulties and face struggles to grow. And I feel a lot of that has been taken away out of our current modern day society. So I'm with you, dude. I think we do need to bring back rites of passage. I think that would be something very phenomenally cool. And I do think it can help cultivate the next generation of men, man. And kind of show them that this is a responsibility that you're bringing into the world. You're a provider, you're a creator, you're a protector, all of these things, man. And there's no wrong and no shame in that. And that's something I'm working. One guy you should really check out, Charlie, if you're watching, man. Here's a shout out to you. Check out Mindful Warrior Within podcast. You would really like him. And he talked about this stuff. I'm going to be on his show when he starts up his next season too. But yeah, man. But I'm with you on that. It's time we bring something like that back.
Yeah, I think it. Yeah, there are a lot of things that are movements I think in the right direction. Like, I mean, I think it's no accident that the UFC is so popular, and to some people it's just people bashing each other in the head, and it is. But the level of discipline that's required for people to do that, to be high skilled fighters and make weight and all the training and just and what it actually takes to go step into a ring with someone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've just done like a lot of sparring, like boxing, and even just there's been times where it's been like, oh fuck, and it's just like that's been like I've had some real intense sparring sessions, and even just that is really intense in terms of like it's always fully captivating. Every time I would go and box, it was always like I would get nervous every time. Even when I would go box, like even when there was times where it was just like a core group of like a few guys, it's like fucking fight the same guys every week, and it would be like, all right, like you would, it demands your attention, and the level that it requires to get step in the ring is like bananas.
Oh, it is, man. It is, man. I love the saying. When you get hit in the face, there goes your plan, or whatever it says. You
Right.
can walk into the ring with a plan, but once you get punched, the plan goes out the window. I'm absolutely with you, man. That's why I've been boxing for the past 2 years. It's phenomenally different. It's character building. There's camaraderie in
Yeah,
it as
that's
well.
that's the word I just had in my head too.
It's camaraderie, man, and it is, man. It's I mean, in our lives, man. We will definitely take some physical beatings. Don't get me wrong, but we will also take mental beatings. We will take emotional beatings. But you kind of sum something up a little bit earlier than I talk about a lot. When you do work your physical body, you are also by default you're working your energetic body, you're working your spiritual body, your subtle body as well. So there's a as above so below correlation with that. So and that's why martial arts, man, like they originated as spiritual practices. And I mean they became a sport later down the line. You know what I mean? I mean, where people would have matches and things like that. But if we're even going back to like the old traditions of like kung fu
Right.
and things like that, kung fu is a moving meditation. It's a very
Yep.
spiritual practice. And so that's true, man. Undergoing that kind of training and undergoing that experience altogether, and that's why honestly it makes you understand what violence is capable of, because there's a lot of people out there who are so quick and gung-ho to be violent.
I know. And
And
it's like
my
no.
first thing is like, you've never been in a fight, have you? Because if you truly have, you would know that it never ends up well. And I mean, don't get me wrong, we have to learn how to defend ourselves. Of course, if somebody comes after me, I'm going to return the favor. Don't get me wrong. but to go out and look for that, and to constantly try to like, and it would give people a taste of what violence is really like. And I think we would see a lot of changed people. And in my eyes too, man, I'll even entertain this also. There are some people that are only going to learn through violence, and potentially that is also a route, like that rite of passage, maybe getting in the ring with somebody and sparring with them. That could be the rite of passage, because that would put a perspective in a young man. That most certainly would. That would be like, okay, so this is what violence does. This is what violence is capable of. Whether it's needed, there's, some people might debate there's needed violence when it comes to certain things. I mean, I can understand that perspective to a degree. And but yeah, man, I think that you're absolutely right about that. That would be an awesome rite of passage, though. Like, yeah, when you're 13, getting ready to go to high school, hop in the ring with somebody and get a perspective of that. And I think that would cultivate a better generation of young men.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't, I've been in some fights and stuff like that, and blah blah blah. I mean, I've never served in the military, but I've read enough books, I guess, and like watched stuff, and have like the tiniest bit of my own experience to be able to draw on to know that it's just like, I mean, like, violence is terrible and war is terrible, but the best way to be able to prevent violence is to be able to be capable of violence.
Agreed,
Like,
100% agreed.
like if fucking you're doing something and Brock Lesnar goes stop, you're gonna be like, probably gonna stop. I'm probably gonna listen to him. Like, it makes your words carry more weight. Like, if you encounter a bear, like, you're like, oh, I'm fucked because of the sheer capability of violence. But you encounter a bear when you're in a tank, you're not gonna be worried about it because you're in a fucking tank. And if you are making your, like, I mean, I'm in pretty good shape, but I'm not like super jacked. Like, I've done some training, but I'm not like a great fucking, I'm not a good fighter or anything. But just like, I can tell that, like, I can tell, like, I absolutely get more respect. Just like, I'm in better shape. Like, if I wear, if I'm wearing a shirt, you can tell that, like, I have some muscle. Like, I can, people treat you with more respect. Like, I've had, people at the gym, it's like, oh, are you using this? It's like, brother, I'm obviously not using that. But you, like, and likewise, just like and just being able to, you understand things differently if you have more physicality, because there's definitely I think, a problem with this mind-body separation, whatever you want to call it, Cartesian duality, mind body.
That's a good, yes,
like,
Cartesian duality, yes.
Your mind, your mind and your body is one and the same, and this whole trans thing, not even to go down that road, but just as an example of, like, it's totally the separation of your identity from your body. No, you are your body. You are 100% your body. Your whole existence, like you were talking about with the people, the woo woo people who want to be in the realm, the ether or whatever.
Yeah.
No, you are your body. That's what this is. It's a body experience. And if you make yourself more strong, you are going to have a different experience, and you are going to, you'll begin to think differently. Like, I've had experiences where I'm just like, I remember, like, I was in a cafe, and I was me and my friend, and I was like, we could literally kill everyone in here if we wanted to with our bare hands, because everyone in there was just either old or just like some little just a little tiny weakling. And I was just like, and no one seems aware of like how just, like, you are so pitiful. And like, it makes you think differently. Like, you realize you're like, I have capabilities. Like, women become more attracted to you, got people respect you more. It's innate, it's natural. Like, it happens like this. Like, if you respect something, if you truly respect something, it's not, you don't think about it. How do I, no, it's immediate. Like, if you're attracted to someone, like, it's just, it's technically attractive. Like, if you see someone that's attractive, and that's why it's important to, like, understand these. And like you were saying, it's like, yeah, the more, like, I don't want to go around hurting people. And now that I've like spent a lot of time training, I don't feel like I have anything. I don't need to go. I don't feel the need to prove anything to someone. And it's like,
Absolutely.
I know what can happen. It's like, I don't want to fucking hurt someone, and I don't want to get punched in the face either. Like, it sucks.
It
Um,
does. It's not fun. It's not fun, man. No, I'm with you. I'm with you, man. And I get that too. And it is, man. It's almost as if the one thing I'm going to say is this, and then we got to kind of start winding down because it's getting a
yeah,
little bit late for
let's
me.
do
But
it.
yeah, no problem. So, but dude, it's almost as if when you train your body, your whole existence ultimately enters a different frequency. It's a different experience, and I'm with you, man, because like, just like you, I, I've experienced this firsthand. Like I've experienced everything you're talking about firsthand. And the one thing I can say is it's almost an innate thing, and it does. It's a whole different reality. It's a whole different experience. And I think really what that stems down from is, you're in a physical realm. You're having this physical experience at this point in time. My thing is this: why wouldn't you want to have the physical capability to deal with the physical experience? And like that's something. I mean, because one of the biggest reasons I started training, um, was when I was younger. I had a lot of times where I felt helpless and I couldn't do anything about it. And that didn't sit well with me. It didn't. It struck like a giant nerve within me. And that was one of the biggest things that pushed me to make that realization that, like, you got to do something about this, dude. You can't be walking around this place being helpless and fucking defenseless. You can't do that. And so I mean, it's almost as if it ultimately by default, like we were saying before, it takes you into that higher frequency experience here, and it instills that discipline and that confidence, man, and that radiates off you, dude. Like, human beings, we pick up on energy. We do, and there are scientific studies that showcase this. We do pick up on stimuli that is non-physical as human beings. And that's something that you emit. When you do that, you emit this confidence, you emit strength, you emit this, and you also too, like, I mean, even Jordan Peterson says this. You have to have some capacity for violence. And that's one of the biggest things that he says, that I agree with. You have to. That's why one of the biggest things say is I choose peace, dude. I choose it because, you know, um, I've chosen the other road before, and it never ends out well. It never does. So that's why I choose peace, man. But that does not mean, and that's where I think a lot of people get past. A lot of people want to say, pacifism is spirituality. Pacifism is a completely different thing than choosing peace, and that's just one thing that I want to lay down. Pacifism is the unwillingness to fight. There are people that choose peace but are willing to fight if they need to. And I think that's where it draws the line and the difference there. But nonetheless, Clark, man, it was great having you on. Like, dude, thanks for taking. I know you just got married 3 days ago, man. I'm sure you got some honeymoon responsibilities you got to get to here and stuff like that, man. But I got to say, awesome conversation, man. Your story is very profound. And one of the beautiful things, man, about a lot of people that I have on this show is I hear so much of myself in their story. That's why I always ask, and that's one of the, in case anybody out there listening wants to know why I always ask people's stories. It's because I always hear some of my own, and to me it's really cool for me because, like, and one of the biggest things a lot of us in this conscious collective that we share, we all have a similar story. I mean, are differences. Don't get me wrong. Like, some people might have went through this, you might have went through that, but ultimately, when we look at the grand scheme of this, we all have a very similar story that led us up to where we are today. And bro, respect. You overcame all of those struggles. You jumped out of the nihilism wormhole, or the freaking nihilism portal. You faced these challenges. You found this meaning. You cultivated yourself to attract this woman who's come into your life now, man, and who is who stuck with you through biking across the country, man. That's fucking saying something. She sounds like a keeper, bro.
She's the
And
best, dude. That's why I married her. She's she feels like a godsend. I love her.
I dig that, man. I dig that, man. Well, nonetheless, Clark, so I have your IG and I have your Facebook in the description of both the Rumble and the YouTube videos. But if you want to tell people, man, where they can order your book, and if you want to send that to me, I will update the links in the description too, man, so people can check out your book.
Yeah, thank you. I had a great time talking to you, bro. So thank you so much for having me on. And if you just go to my Instagram, Clark Jackson _fitness, in the link tree, it's the first link on Amazon. The name of the book is Eat Some Ice Cream, Bang a Hooker, and Kill Myself.
Dude, I fucking love it, man. I love it, dude.
Because I felt like, that was kind of just like a summary of like the ethos or whatever of nihilism. Just I can do this, do that, have a little experience, and then
eat some ice cream, bang a hooker, and then kill myself. I fucking love it, dude. That is awesome, man.
Yeah, I felt like it'll be like it was what I was talking about with my friend, and I said that, and he's like, I think that's the name of the book. He's like, I think that should be the name of the book. And so I credit him with the idea, and I was like, yeah, that would be like a title that would probably grab your attention on an airport, I think.
Dude, oh man, fuck that. That's a book I would pick if I was walking through a bookstore, dude. And I
right, it'll make you go like, oh, I want to look at it. Like, it's quite a name.
I'd be like, no, I'm definitely picking up this book, man, because I'm a fan of humor and dark humor myself. I can go to those depths. So as soon as I saw that, I would be like, yes, man, yes. But nonetheless, bro, if you can just hang out for 2 minutes after the show, real quick, I'm going to chat with you about tomorrow. But alrighty, guys. So we are signing off for BG-Cast tonight. I will be back tomorrow night with the post-election special. Clark will be joining me, as well as Chris Matthew, his lady Jennifer. We got Ryder Lee. We got Kyle Parker Lewis, who was on the show a few weeks ago. We got Josh from Sunglasses After Dark podcast. Man, we got Andrew from Heavyweights Light Feels coming on. We got Rachel coming back. We got Urban hopping on to discuss with us. It's going to be a very interesting time, guys. I mean, I will save everything I'm going to say for tomorrow night. Some of you who follow me on X and Facebook, you already know about my opinion about all of this. However, I'm going to entertain some of what's going on too, because I find it rather interesting. But guys, thanks again for tuning in with us for another BG-Cast Wednesday Live podcast. If you like what you heard tonight, give me a follow and a like, and I will catch all of you later. Have a good night, everybody. Take care and stay safe, everybody.